Australian of the Year for 2007 is Tim Flannery.
He's the closest thing I've seen, or the closest person I've seen, to a genuine Renaissance person. He loves history, he loves reading, he's engaged by people, he loves people, loves observing people, and is at home with a prospector's hammer in one hand and the prospect of a fossil in the other. Not only that, he's prepared to go to extremes, to extreme parts of the planet where I certainly wouldn't be game to go in search of answers.
He's many things. He is undoubtedly an explorer in the old tradition of going to places where nobody's gone before, and he has an extreme, acute curiosity of what he sees around him. He's a very good biologist and ecologist, and he's a very good taxonomist. That means to say that he knows about what constitutes a species and how to distinguish between them. And of course he has discovered many new species himself.
It all started in 1981 when I went to a mountain only about 150 kilometres out of Port Moresby and found a new species of wallaby on this mountaintop, which was incredible. How could a big animal like a wallaby escape notice until 1981?
Oh, I think in Tim's work in Papua was obviously a tremendously creative period of his life.
To my certain knowledge, he's named 30 species of mammals. That I remember the publication of the tree kangaroos and possums some years ago that David Attenborough, I think, launched in this very building. How proud he was.
Well, his passion is for the natural world. He adores the natural world. He has an incurable, insatiable, unquenchable curiosity about the natural world, and in its tiniest details.
I first heard about Tim with his work on the Wentworth Group. They did a lot of workable solutions on the Murray-Darling River, and I thought that was fantastic.
The Wentworth group of concerned scientists got together a couple of years ago during another drought in Australia when there was mad proposals flying about to pump water from the north of Australia, to keep growth going. And we could see that just made no environmental or economic sense, and decided that science needed to be heard on these issues.
Tim's great contribution, I think, to science is that he makes it accessible to the general public. And I think the books he's authored reflect that his capacity to explain very complex scientific principles and concepts in language even people like I can understand is extraordinary.
The Wentworth Group was supporting Tim in writing The Weather Makers, which is just 2 years ago, and if you just think back 2 years, it wasn't on the big agenda that it is today.
Tim has had great contributions as an author in the scientific world with 90 publications, but more recently to the general reading audience with his recent works on climate change. The Weather Makers, Future Eaters, are great books that almost everybody can read and understand what the causes of climate change are and what they can actually do.
Really, the motivating force for me to write that book was my shock at the damage we've already done to the Earth's ecosystems and its atmosphere, and the terrible perils that lay ahead for all of us unless we get on top of that pollution, unless we deal with it very, very promptly.
He just found himself being buried in information, and the more information he came across, the more concerned he became. And now, of course, he's one of probably the planet's leading crusaders for redressing, if possible, what is a looming catastrophe.
If you read any page of The Weather Makers, for example, you will know that this is a man who knows what he's writing about. And he has seen a truth, and he has seen the dangers which alarm him very considerably. And he is able to translate that into terms which people understand.
He is, by nature, a really genuine, nice guy. Fascinating in terms of the intellect that he brings, sparkling dinner party conversationalist and companion, Those are his great strengths.
Now he is a world figure, and he is respected all over Europe and America as not only someone who knows about the climate, but who's really doing something about it.
He's an extraordinary bloke, and without doubt, not only an extraordinary Australian, an extraordinary human.
In terms of climate change, really, there's only one set of accounts that matters in the long run, and that's the one held by our atmosphere. For the amount of polluting greenhouse gas it contains will profoundly affect our future. And it's on lowering the level of those greenhouse gases that my sights are set for this year. I know it's possible to do, but only if we all work together.